Hello, all are requested to take their seats. We are going to start within a few minutes. We are going to start within a few minutes. All are requested to take their seats. Our guests of today's program have arrived, so let us welcome them by giving a big applause. I request all the guests to take their seats. I request all the guests, today's keynote speaker, Dr. N.S. Gundur sir, CDC Chairman Dr. Vishram Lomte sir, Dr. Langre sir, officiating Principal Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir, convener of this one-day national conference Dr. S.S. Sringare sir, live member Dr. R.J. Patil sir, Professor Apte sir, Vice Principal Dr. Kumbhar sir, Chintamrao College of Commerce Principal Dr. Shardul Thakur sir. I request all the dignitaries to take their seats. Good morning to all of you. My heart brims with joy to welcome you, all of you participants, delegates, scholars, Department of English heads, principals for this one-day national conference on trends in English language, literature and research. Today's chief guest, Dr. N.S. Gundur sir, Dr. Langre sir, inaugural head Dr. Vishram Lomte sir, our live members and Vice Principal Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir, Professor R.J. Patil sir, Apte sir, Vice Principal Dr. S.R. Kumbhar sir, Dr. Shardul Thakur sir, all the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. As you know, English is a world window. And this is the age of information and technology. So there are so many trends in language, literature and research. To discuss all these issues and to get proper guidance, Deccan Education Society's Willingdon College has organized a one-day conference on this topic. Once again, I welcome you one and all. What is the difference between civilization and culture? Civilization means what we have and culture means what we are. Our thoughts, our tradition, our gratitude and our culture. In our culture, we commence any program by worshipping Goddess Saraswati and by lighting the lamp. I request all the dignitaries on the dais for worshipping Goddess Saraswati and lighting the lamp. All dignitaries are lighting the lamp and worshipping Goddess of Wisdom, Devi Saraswati, Goddess of Knowledge, Wisdom. Asto Ma Sadgamayo, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Our Indian tradition teaches us, O God, lead me from darkness to light, ignorance to knowledge, and mortality to immortality. So this is the spirit of our culture, our tradition. Our CDC chairman Dr. Vishram Lomte sir is worshipping Goddess Saraswati, Goddess of knowledge, wisdom. Dr. Langre sir, Dr. R. A. Kulkarni sir, Dr. Shardul Thakur sir, Principal of Chintamro College of Commerce, Dr. Sangli, Convener of this conference, Professor R.J. Patil sir, Life Member, Deccan Education Society, Dr. S.R. Kumbhar sir, Vice Principal, Willingdon College, Sangli, Professor N.K. Apte, Chintamro College of Commerce, Life Member, thank you sir, thank you very much. I request all the guests of today to take their seats. Thank you very much, sir. It was not just lighting the lamp, but it was enlightening our spirit, joy, and our enthusiasm. So thank you very much. I request our star singer Astha Ogle for welcome song. Astha Ogle.
स्वरदे श्री शारदे स्वरदे श्री शारदे सामगायन रते सामगायन रते मंगलकरी मातु मंगलकरी मातु वागधीवर दे स्वरदे श्री शारदे जय वर्णमालिनी वीणा सुवादिनी जय वर्णमालिनी वीणा सुवादिनी मम हृदय भक्ति तव मम हृदय भक्ति तव वागधीवर दे स्वरदे श्री शारदे स्वरदे श्री शारदे स्वरदे श्री शारदे.
Thank you, Astha. Astha is very important in life and in program also, because Astha means zeal, enthusiasm, and youthfulness. You have created devotional ambience. Thank you very much. Let us proceed to the next. I request Dr. S.S. Shrangare sir, convener of this one-day national conference, for introductory speech and to introduce today's chief guest, Dr. Shrangare sir.
Thank you, sir. A very fine morning to one and all. It's an honor and privilege to me to welcome you on behalf of Deccan Education Society, Willingdon College, Sangli, to the one-day national conference on trends in English language, literature, and research. Respected dignitaries on the stage and off the stage, the inaugurator of the inauguration function, Chairman of the College Development Committee, and and the council member of Deccan Education Society, Dr. Vishram Lopte sir, the keynote addresser of the inauguration function, Professor and Chairman of the Department of Studies and Research in English, Tumkur University, Tumkur, Dr. Ines Gundur sir, the life member of Deccan Education Society and the Vice Principal of Arts Faculty, Dr. Ravindra Kulkarni sir, the life member of Deccan Education Society, Professor Rajkumar Patil sir, the resource person of the first session, Chairman of Board Studies in English, Savitribai Phule Pune University, Pune, and the Principal of Arts Faculty, Commerce and Science College, Narayangau, Pune, Professor Dr. Anand Kulkarni sir, Dr. Langre sir, Associate Professor, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, Professor Dr. Kumbar sir, Vice Principal of Science Faculty, Professor Apte sir, Finance Control of Deccan Education Society, Chintamanrao College of Commerce, Professor Dr. Shardul Thakur sir, Principal, Chintamanrao College of Commerce, Sangli, and my dear delegates. Willingdon College has recently completed 104 years. Now we are entering in the 105th year. Today we have organized this one-day national conference on trends in English language, literature and research. And I'm very happy to let you know that for this one-day conference, there are more than 250 participants. They have joined. Now there might be a question in your mind. We are watching hardly 50 to 60 participants in the auditorium. But my dear friends, let me tell you that this conference is in hybrid mode. And as far as this conference is concerned, 90% delegates, they have joined to this one-day national conference through virtual mode. And the rest of the 10%, they are joining this conference in person. Talking about today's topic, that is trends in English language, literature and research. Trends of language, research and literature have been changing continuously. And in order to discuss on that trends, in order to discuss that language, in order to discuss that research, what that change is taking place in contemporary days, for that purpose, we have arranged this platform for the critics, for the resource person, for the delegates, for the students, so that we may become very well acquainted with that development as such. Willingdon College has been giving a precious contribution in the field of art, science, sports and research. And this tradition needs to be continued in the time to come. In order to contribute this tradition, Department of English has used this one-day national conference. Today's one-day national conference is the succeeding development of this tradition. All languages, literature and research change over time, and there can be many different reasons for this. The English language, literature and research is no different. Research scholar must be in constant flux. Thinkers, philosophers, critics, linguists, students, they need to come together on a platform to exchange their views, their ideas, their concepts. And as a result of this critical exercise, we are going to set a stepping stone for this glorious development as such. With this agenda, today's national conference has been organized. we are very happy to let you know that up to this extent, we have received 250 research papers. The research papers which we have received, all that research papers have got scrutinized with the help of the scrutiny committee. We have done the plagiarism, and the first 100 papers we have sent to that of the publisher. And all these research papers are going to be published in UGC Care listed journal. The rest of the 100 papers we are going to say on 17th. And I'm very happy to let you know that as this is one-day national conference, we have received the papers from Maharashtra, Assam, Guwahati, Ranchi, Patna, Kochi, Kerala, Thiruvananthapuram, Tiruvalla, Pondicherry, Bengaluru, Hyderabad. From all these states, we have received 250 research papers. I express my sincere gratitude and a warm welcome to all these participants who came over here to join this one-day national conference in person. Not only this, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all those participants who have joined this one-day national conference through virtual mode as well. We are telecasting this conference on YouTube channel. Let me now close my introductory speech by wishing you a delightful, fruitful, and brainstorming and stimulating day as such. With these brief words, I do conclude my introductory speech. Hereafter, I am going to introduce today's resource person, the keynote of the speaker, Dr. N.S. Gundur sir. The task of introducing today's guest of honor is a great privilege. He is a man of virtue and simplicity. I feel elated to introduce him. He is a living inspiration to the teaching fraternity. Dr. Gundur sir is a MA, PhD, PG deep in linguistics. His area of interest is literary and cultural theory, modern Karnataka and Karnataka literary cultures. He is a person who lives with a vision. His vision of life is leading the life of mind, teaching modes of inquiry by way of reading, writing, conversing, and thinking. He has completed his BA from Karnataka University, Dharwad. He has completed his MA from Karnataka University, Dharwad. He has cracked his NET examination in the year 2000. He has completed his PhD from Karnataka University, Dharwad in the year 2004. He is a professor and chairman of Department of Studies and Research in English, Tumkur University, Tumkur. He worked as a chairman of Department of English Studies, Davangere University, Davangere. His areas are literary and cultural theories, history of modern Karnataka literary cultures, intellectual formation of modern Karnataka. He is a member of Academic Council, Tumkur University, Tumkur. He is a director, Prasara Ganga, Tumkur University. He is a member of ICAT coordinator, Tumkur University, Tumkur. Likewise, on many fields, he worked, he has given his best. Not only this, under his kind guidance, there are many research scholars who have completed their research degrees. He has received a fellowship, New India Foundation of 6 lakh rupees. He has completed his research project on the title English for Military Purposes and has got 86,000 rupees for that research project as such. He has published 17 international research papers in an esteemed journal. He is a well-known research guide of Tumkur University. With these brief words, there are many things that I would like to quote here, but due to the constraint of time, I would like to conclude his biodata, and you will come to know the height, the knowledge, the power of our today's keynote addresser, Professor Dr. Kuntu sir. With these brief words, I do conclude his introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangli sir, handling both responsibilities very skillfully. As you talked about Dr. Gundur sir, he is a man of virtue. When I met him, I realized that virtue is not in knowing, but doing. And values are not taught, but they are caught. So I learned from Dr. Gundur sir. Thank you very much. I would like to request Professor Amar Mane to introduce our CDC chairman and inaugurator of this session, Dr. Vishram Lomte sir.
Thank you, sir. Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, faculty members and all dear students. Very good morning, one and all. It's given me great pleasure to introduce the president of this inaugural function, Dr. Vishram Lomte sir. It is his second term of council member of Deccan Education Society, Pune. Sir has been working as a chairman and member of several committees at Deccan Education Society, Pune. He has completed MBBS and Diploma in DNB Pediatrics. He is the owner of hospital name Lomte Nursing Home and Multi-Speciality Hospital, Sangli, for maternity, surgical, pediatric and general hospital. He has served as a tutor in pediatrics at NDM BP Medical College, Nashik, and lecturer in medicine at BDPC, Sangli. He has worked as a vice president of Arogya Bharati, Western Maharashtra Prant. Also, he is an ex-secretary of Indian Medical Association, Sangli. He has also arranged and participated in several multi-diagnostic medical camps and yoga camps. He also worked as a judge for several bar Arogya competitions. He has published several articles regarding medical subjects, vaccination, corona diseases, social issues and dramas. Sir worked as a director, actor and producer of several dramas. He also won several prizes in drama, swimming, cricket and other sports. We are honored by your presence on this occasion. Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mane sir. By profession, Lomte sir is a doctor, but by passion, he is a social engineer because he is an activist of so many movements. So we are very lucky to have such inaugurator for our session. Friends, there are so many new trends in language, literature and research, but one trend is same, and that trend is Atithi Devo Bhava. To give honor, to respect our guest, that trend has not changed. So let us felicitate our today's chief guests. I request inaugurator and CDC chairman Dr. Vishram Lomte sir to felicitate today's keynote speaker Dr. N.S. Gundur sir. Dr. Vishram Lomte sir is felicitating our today's chief guest, keynote speaker, Dr. N.S. Gundur sir. Eco-friendly bouquet, shawl as a token of our love and respect. Memento and scriffle, it's our tradition. And Willingdonian magazine. I request officiating principal Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir to felicitate Dr. Chandrasekhar Langre sir. as a token of our love, eco-friendly bouquet. Deccan Education Society in Willingdon College very cautious regarding the protection of environment. That's why we use such eco-friendly bouquets. I would like to request Professor N.K. Apte sir to felicitate Dr. Vishram Lomte sir, inaugurator of this session. It is the concept of Apte sir and Lomte sir to use such bouquets. I request our life member Professor R.J. Patil sir to felicitate Shardul Thakur sir, acting principal of Chintaman Rao College of Commerce. Thank you, sir. I would like to request to take your seats. Literature is the reflection of society. It's a mirror of our society. We have a great and glorious tradition of language, literature and research. In Rigved, it is mentioned that, or there is a prayer that, let noble thought should come to me from all sides. So it shows that we are with an open mind. Writing in English from R.K. Narayan to Chetan Bhagat, we have a very rich and glorious tradition of English, language, literature and research. With this, I request our today's inaugurator, Dr. Vishram Lomte sir, for his inauguratory speech. Dr. Lomte sir.
Hema Saraswati, please light up us with wisdom, knowledge and prosperity in English language, literature and research. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries, guests, scholars and fellow enthusiasts of the English language, literature and research. I am honored to welcome you to this conference where we gather to explore and develop into the dynamic trend shaping world of English language, literature and research. In this interconnected national landscape, our pursuit of knowledge and understanding has never been more crucial. As we embark on this intellectual journey, let us celebrate the richness of the English language, a medium that has evolved through the time, absorbing diverse influences and contributing to the not only national but the global tapestry of the communication. The trends we witness today reflect not only the linguistic evolution but also the cultural, social and technological shift that influences our academic endeavors. In the realm of literature, we observe the constant metamorphosis of narratives, genre and voices. From classic works to contemporary masterpieces, literature serves as a mirror reflecting the multifaceted nature of human experiences. Our discussion will unravel the threads connecting the past, present and future of the literary expression. Research, the cornerstone of the intellectual progress, propels us forward. The trend in English language research encompasses a spectrum as wide as the language itself. From linguistic analysis to the exploration of the cross-cultural influences, our collective effort contributes to a deeper understanding of how language shapes our world. In the spirit of collaboration and exchange, let us engage in fruitful discussion, challenge the existing paradigms, and pave the way for the innovative ideas to emerge. This conference is a platform for intellectual synergy where each of us, driven by our passion for the English language, can contribute to the broader narrative of knowledge. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the participants, organizers, and our Deccan Education Society who have made this gathering possible. Together, let us explore, learn, and foster a greater appreciation for the ever-evolving trends in English language, literature and research. Thank you, and let the conference begin. Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Lomde sir, for your igniting and inspiring words. Whatever you said, surely it will come out from this conference. It is said that language is a medium of communication and literature is a medium of expression. Literature is very important because it gives us joy, motivation and inspiration. Without literature, nothing is possible. There will be complete darkness. That's why one great poet said that अंधकार है वहाँ जहाँ आदित्य नहीं, मुर्दा है जीवन वो जहाँ साहित्य नहीं. So let us take this motivation, and I request our keynote addresser, Dr. N.S. Gundur sir, to deliver his keynote address. Dr. Gundur sir. I would like to request all the dignitaries to take their seats in our first front row, because this is PPT presentation, so that we can enjoy Dr. Gundur sir's lecture. All dignitaries on the dais are requested to take their seats in first row. Good morning. First, I would like to thank the fraternity of this great institution, Willingdon College, Dr. Visram Lomte, who made a very, very precise and short inaugural speech, Dr. Kulkarni, the acting principal, Professor Ajay Patil sir, Sri Apteji, Vice Principal Professor Kumbar, my friend Shardul Thakur, and my almost like my teacher, Dr. Chandrakant Langre sir, and this organizing secretary, Dr. Shashikant, and very, very enthusiastic and flowery Professor Mahadev. I think after listening to your comparing, I don't know how to make my keynote address interesting. And English teaching fraternity, students of English literature and students and teachers from other disciplines. Let me begin with a sentiment. One of the reasons why I accept invitations from colleges in Maharashtra is not because of intellectual ambition, because I like pohe very much, and I get an opportunity to taste pohe here. So pohe is one, in Kannada we call it avlakki. We can't prepare it the way you Maharashtrians prepare. In fact, when I was in Maharashtra, I taught here for almost half a decade, and then I was bachelor. I wanted to marry a girl from Maharashtra just because of pohe, but that didn't happen. So, and there is a second very, very important thing when Professor Langre asked me to
accept this invitation. This Willingdon College, there is so much interaction between Maharashtra and North Karnataka, from where I come from, Dharwad region. All the makers of modern Karnataka, both Kannada professors, Kannada teachers and English teachers, they are shaped by the intellectual milieu either in Pune or in Mumbai or place like Sangli. We owe a lot to the intellectual contribution of Maharashtra. So, one of our Jnanpith awardees, Dr. V.K. Gokak, was the 5th principal of this college. He is not just a Jnanpith awardee, he is the one who shaped and trained a generations of scholars and poets in Karnataka. And that is, with that sentiment I came here, and his successor, Professor R.S. Mugudi, is a great literary historian. He wrote literary history of, even now it is considered a landmark. He was the 9th principal of this college. And what joy you require to be a part of that legacy, along with Pohe and a fantastic child. So, friends, today in my talk, I will be concentrating on research trends in English studies. But before that, I would like to present, since it is a keynote, I have to open the key. I will be touching upon a couple of points on language literature or the teaching of English. Then I will talk about research trends in English studies. Let me begin with a question. The question is, what is English? And what is English for the world outside, the rest of the world? English for the world is, it is simply English language for the rest of the world. For us, it is a discipline. It is also English language for us. More than that, for English teachers and students, it is a discipline. We shouldn't forget that. And this discipline has the most exciting history, though it has a very, very short history. Compared with other disciplines, for example, political science, physics, chemistry, and other disciplines, we have just very short history. Especially in India, it is just 300 years old, whereas the other disciplines have a longer history than that. But in this short span, what English studies as a discipline has made is something quite remarkable. If mathematics is the queen of sciences, and at present English discipline is the queen of humanities, don't ask for who is the king. Because of all the humanities discipline, of course there is a social aura associated with an English professor. If you are traveling in a train or a flight, if you introduce yourself as English professor, the fellow travelers look at you differently. If you introduce yourself as, I'm a professor of Marathi or Kannada, that's a different thing. But this discipline is important because of all the humanities and social sciences departments or disciplines, this discipline is particularly important because here, with all our disillusionment and all the complaint about contemporary education, critical thinking is happening in this discipline. You know, this is a critical thinking discipline, and at the same time, disciplines are man-made. Disciplines are, go back. Disciplines are man-made. When I say, then only you click it. Disciplines are man-made. They are not closed categories like caste system. They are open categories. They keep on changing. They change their object of study, they change their methods, they change their goals, and they change their aspirations. And it is English studies as a discipline which is more flexible and more open-ended than any other discipline in the contemporary scenario. So, in 20th and 21st century, it is English professors in the humanities who have contributed a lot to the field of knowledge production. For example, if you take the global level, you know, especially from American universities like, you know, Edward Said, Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak, that kind of professors, and even deconstruction theorists like Geoffrey Hartman, Hillis Miller, Paul Newman, their contribution to the field of humanity is immense. What we call theory turn in English studies. You know, theory turn at the global level, especially American scholars. And equally, if you look at the life of our discipline, English discipline in India, India also has contributed a lot to the development of post-colonial English studies. We have not taken it simply as language teaching. For Indian professors have modified, reshaped this discipline as a discipline of liberal humanities, liberal education. We have challenged the hegemony of teaching British literature. We have introduced Commonwealth literature. We have introduced, especially from Karnataka University English Department, popularized the discipline of Indian writing in English. Professor C.D. Narasimhaya from Mysore University reshaped this discipline by introducing Indian authors, by establishing a journal called Literary Criteria. So, we have reinvented this discipline in our own way. The contribution of Indian professors of English to the development of English as a discipline is immense. And the most important thing, I don't know much about Marathi literature and culture, but I know from my own tradition, Kannada literature and culture, modern Kannada writers, great writers, both critics and creative writers are trained in the English department. They are the product of English discipline. There is so much we can learn from this point. You know, let us not just be proud of the fact that we are teachers of English. We have more than this responsibility of teaching merely English. More than that, there is a greater task ahead of us. So, this discipline's contribution to bhashas And to take one example from Marathi, this thing, Professor Balchandra Nemade was also a professor of teacher of English in Ahmednagar College, and you know his contribution to Marathi literature. You know, I can cite a lot of examples from Kannada literature and tradition, culture. So this created, next, writers, more importantly, the critical practice in our bhashas, critics. You know, they are the products of this discipline. Friends, the point I'm trying to make is this. I think teachers from all the disciplines, we crib about learning, writing, reading, etc. That's all fine. And we also criticize the present generation teachers and learners. Amidst all this negativity, all complaint, let us not forget our achievement as English teachers. So English discipline is as much our own as cricket is. You know, Ashish Nandi once remarked, cricket is an Indian game accidentally discovered by the British. Likewise, English is our discipline. We have made it our discipline. So this is the progress and achievement of English discipline. But in course of this, we have lost sight of the vision of English department, the vision of our profession. We have merely reduced teaching English to teaching language as communicative skill. This is high time we remind ourselves the larger vision of this discipline, the larger goal. Next. So now I will talk about this envisioning the goals of teaching English in 21st century India. The question is, why do we teach English? What is the purpose of teaching English? Why do we need English? We don't need to teach English for Facebook, for social media, for going to the bank and asking the manager how to do the formalities, or teaching English merely for writing CV. We need English for knowledge production. If a student of physics sits in the general English class, if a student of economics sits in general English class, he should be interested in, or she should be interested in, learning the English language for reading classics in economics, reading physics in economics. We should teach them English as if we are preparing future economists, future physicists, which I call English for knowledge use. So we need to formulate this question of teaching English slightly differently. Do we need English in higher education or for higher education? There is a difference. We need English for higher education. It should serve the purpose of higher education. What is the purpose of higher education? The purpose of higher education is higher, not just transmission of knowledge, giving information. It is productive way, knowledge production. So we need English for knowledge production, not for social use. English for knowledge use, not for just social use. We have lost sight of this, and I'm not telling anything new. I'm simply reminding ourselves, including me, I'm reminding you the vision we have lost, the purpose we have ignored. Many people have told this. So, our English is not just BPO English. It is English for critical thinking, not merely for the job market. So, therefore, we English teachers talk a lot about LSRW skills. But among these 4 LSRW, I add one more. Translation should also be added there. You know, this is an important skill. But among these skills, what is important, if your purpose is teaching English for higher education, we should be training our students in critical reading and writing skills. Critical reading and writing skills, they are very important. If at all there is some deficiency in the teaching of English language and literature, it is this. We are not teaching our students how to read text, how to compose text. This is our problem. So, I will slightly elaborate, the structure of higher education. What is the structure of higher education? If we understand the structure of higher education, we will be able to understand the structure of English teaching. The question of English for higher education. The structure is like this. The aim of higher education is knowledge production. Yes. You see, we have 3 cycles. Obviously, undergraduate cycle, postgraduate cycle, and doctoral research cycle. You know, there is a logic behind these cycles. What is the logic? Undergraduate, BA, BSc, BCom, they should prepare our students for post-graduation. And post-graduation, necessarily, should prepare our students for doctoral research. This is the business of our shop. It is not our concern whether the student will continue up to MA or research. That is not in our hands. But this is what our shop sells. And our shop has got this aim and this material. We are going to sell this. Then we will be able to design our curriculum. We will be able to refashion our pedagogy if we know it well, this structure. Therefore, ultimately, higher education is all about the 3rd cycle, research. Even we should teach English or any discipline in the, here you say FY, no? First year. Okay, in Karnataka we have slightly different vocabulary. When a student comes to FY, BA, BSc, BCom, we should think that he or she is going to do research. Therefore, the preparation should start from here. Therefore, my concern today in this keynote address is Research Trends in English Studies. You know, ladies and gentlemen, actually my keynote address begins now. I have an argument. You see, please don't mistake my presentation. I am not saying whatever the research we are doing is wrong. I am proposing a new way of doing research which I am practicing in my own department. I want to share that with you. It doesn't mean that other ways of doing research is not good. I don't mean that. As long as we write decent thesis. All right. Even a thesis on poha will be a good thesis, good contribution to food studies. Okay. So I am going to present only what I am practicing now, and I consider it is very, very important given the trajectory of our discipline. You see, in the history of our discipline, next, there are two turns, broadly, there are many twists and turns, broadly two turns. Number one, the turn of our discipline from literary studies to cultural studies. This is the first turn, and when we all know about it. Literary studies is no longer merely purely literary studies. We have moved from literary studies to cultural studies. So even the study of literary text presupposes culture behind literary text, literature. You know, cultural studies, and cultural studies has, you know, it is an in thing, but I will be speaking about a different kind of cultural studies later. And even in English department, there is one more term which we need to focus. That term I call Bhashas. Turn towards Bhasha literature. Turn towards regional culture, language and literature. You know, the study of local cultures. Students of English literature and teachers very well know the famous essay by Gugi Wa Thiong'yu on the abolition of English department. But we shouldn't take it literally. If the English department is abolished, Shabdul Thakur sir and me, we all lose our jobs. So let us not take it literally, let us take it metaphorically. And many countries are doing that. They are decolonizing English studies. And this is particularly important for me. Ultimately, the English department is there in Maharashtra, in Willingdon College. It is not there in London. It is not there in New York. And we have an ethical obligation. It is government of Maharashtra pays us, English teachers, not the Queen of England. We have an obligation to government of Maharashtra or main government of Karnataka, because so what are we giving back to our state? You know, in even all sciences department and even economics department, all social sciences, they have to keep this in mind. This is these two terms, but largely there is one dominant trend, research trend in English department, that is reading of literary text. We take a couple of texts, 4, 5 texts, and we analyze them. Even some researchers summarize it so badly that the referee wants to read the original books rather than the thesis. So basically it is a textual culture, textual analysis. Yes, my suggestion is that we also need to move from textual culture to literary culture. And this literary culture is my present obsession. I want to eat your brain with my obsession in the next half an hour. So, mere textual analysis will not help us much. And all critical theory, literary theory have questioned the assumptions of literary text, the notion of author, for example, Roland Barthes, Michel Foucault, and many critics, of course Derrida. Taking cue from that, I want to make a distinction between literature and literary culture. Next. So, there is a slight difference between literature and literary culture. But they are intimately connected. The way we say network of things. Literature and literary culture, they are intimately connected. But you all know when we say literature, what we mean is literary text. You know, what we mean is literary text. Literature is all about the inner nature of a literary work. We cut it off from its environment, its production, its context, and we read it. And new critics are notorious for this critical method. You know, and in English department we have not moved from this critical practice. But, and this is largely called textual analysis. You know, in my present composition of my mental makeup, I don't have much respect or love for merely textual analysis, but training in textual analysis is quintessential. That is very important. That's a different thing. So, what I mean by literary culture? A text is not made in the heaven and sent on this earth. The text is not like the sun and the moon. They did not arise, they don't arise all of a sudden. The way we prepare poha, the text is also prepared. The text has got its own context, its own environment, what Mikhail Bakhtin calls literary environment. And that literary environment is not an innocent environment, it is an ideological environment. Literary texts are not produced in a vacuum. So also films. Yes? So, literary text invisibly connected with the social power, the intellectual milieu, the political environment. So, literary culture is a complex space that includes the work, the text, the author, the milieu of the work's production, the reader, the patronage, theoretical base, historical base. So, literary culture is a literary system, literary environment. Suppose there were no printing presses in Maharashtra, there were no schools, what would have happened to modern Marathi literature? Schools prepare readers. You can't think of your authors. There is a connection between literacy and the emergence of literature. There is a connection between print culture, print technology, and the coming into being of a literary culture. You know? So, this is the kind of research I am doing, and I am guiding my research scholars in this field. And you have to tell me, before I go back, I have to decide what I am doing is right or wrong. Because my research scholars, they are 100% sure that this madman is our guide. You know, they are very reluctant because they are trained in the rigid caste system of disciplines. English means English. You know? So I'll give you a couple of examples. You know, what these literary cultures, what are the research trends, what can we work on? For example, some examples. Number one, you see, studying print culture, in the name of cultural studies, you can all do it. Of course, I can understand BOS and all your university committees are very, very rigid. You know, so don't think caste system is there only in society. It is very much there in our BOS and academic council, etc. It is also like caste of minds. Disciplines have become caste. You can't. Silos, we have to break the silos. You know? So print culture and publishing houses. In Karnataka, I am planning to write a monograph on Manohara Granthamala, you know, which began in 1920s and it is still there. And that Manohara Granthamala publishing house produced outstanding playwright called Girish Karnat. You know, and that Manohara Granthamala was inspired by one Granthamala in Pune. If I write the history of modern Kannada literature, there will be more chapters on Maharashtra than on Kannada. So, next, as I said, education, schools and literary culture. Schools are not merely places for instructions. They are the places where writers, readers of literature are produced. Literature is taught. We can explore. We can write the story of how modern Marathi literature or Kannada literature or Bhasha literatures owe to our school teachers. School teachers are very important in imparting or instilling literary sensibilities and literary practices. Next, very important thing, literary culture and its institutions. One can write the history of Willingdon or Deccan, education society. It has produced many literary figures. So, what was the humanistic practice of this institution, this management? Please click on institutions. No. You have to click on institutions. Cursor. Okay, this is the problem with somebody operating. No. Go back. Let it. You see, here is an interesting book. We all study Romanticism in English department. You know, German Romanticism and its institution. What in this book, it's a good model. In this book, the author elaborates what are the institutions that supported and nurtured Romanticism in Europe. So what do you call modern Marathi literature? In Kannada we call Navodaya, Renaissance. So obviously there are many institutions in Maharashtra, modern Maharashtra, which have shaped modern Marathi literature. So we can write the institutional histories from the point of view of literature. Go back. Then Deccan Education Society. Click on that. Go down. Go down. Yes. The history of the Deccan Education Society. Professor Lame is the author of this. You know, your society's history ends in 1935. You may ask me that this is the task of the historian, not a literary scholar. But literary scholar has to write the biography of the institution. Because this institution is not just a teaching institution. I am sure, I don't know the data, I don't have the sufficient data. It must have flourished. For example, our own V.K. Gokak, when he was here, he had formed a literary coterie, some Ananda Kunja, I don't remember, where all Kannadigas would gather and talk about literature. And when Professor R.S. Mugudi was very much here, invited to one play, to inaugurate a play, he watched the play and after that he came back and he delivered 3 lectures on the occasion of that play. You know, writing the history of literary culture by writing the biography of institutions, this is something very relevant to us instead of writing on Chinua Achebe, some American writers. You know, this is one way of doing it. Go back. So, next is literary biographies. Please, one example is, you see, let us not divide our authors on the basis of language. He is a Marathi writer, therefore I am an English teacher, I have nothing to do with Marathi writers. You know, it is better if we produce the biographies of our writers in English, fellow Indians will read it. Yes? Likewise, a lot of literary fests are taking place. We can work on literary festivals. Next. Like reading communities, I will not elaborate on these things. These are some of the things. Oh, what is the time? What time should I finish? 12. 12 noon?
Sir, you can take 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, you be aware of them. Okay, they will take revenge against you. Okay, reading communities like that, I will just this thing. Literary studies and our universities, next. Next. Literary journals and little magazines, they have contributed a lot. Here is a literary coterie, literary group. In Dharwad, Dara Bendre, the greatest poet modern Kannada has ever produced. You know, he started, when he came back to Dharwad, started Gedeyara Gumpu, Friends Circle. And it was inspired by the same kind of Gedeyara Gumpu in Ferguson College. Some Sharada Mandal something, you know. So this Gedeyara Gumpu and their activities made a lot of difference to modern Kannada literature. Please remember, English teachers, They read English poetry and English authors, and they got inspired by these English literary activities to produce modern Kannada literature. This is how we can connect our discipline with our bhashas. Next. So, I have a research program. I won't guide any research scholar outside this program. And this research program in humanities, we can't make sense of it. In sciences, every scientist has a research program. For example, atomic research program. He or she will not guide or poke his or her nose into other, domains of knowledge. And it is an important thing. I have my own research program. And this research program has one leading question. That question is this: how did literary cultures come into being? How do literary cultures come into being? Next. So specifically, my research question is, how did the modern Kannada literary culture happen? People say, or critics, scholars think that modern literary cultures in India are the products of English literary culture, influence of English. That is true. But we also had the horizontal relationship. For example, Kannada is not only shaped by English influence. Modern Kannada literature is shaped by its hegemonic relationship with Marathi literature, Marathi education, Marathi intellectual culture. We have not looked at the horizontal relationship among Indian languages. So, my question slightly deals with this modern Kannada state formation and Kannada literary culture. Maharashtra as a state was made on the basis of the linguistic identity based on Marathi language. There is a connection between the state formation of Maharashtra state, and modern Marathi literature, I feel. But it is very much true in case of formation of the Kannada state. The father of our movement, the one who fought for the unification of Karnataka on the basis of Kannada Nadu, the land of Kannada, was trained in Ferguson College. He was the roommate of Veer Savarkar. So, this is one, therefore, my research largely deals with 3 languages. Next. That is, the negotiations amongst the connection, mutual give and take among these English, Kannada and Marathi. One of my students is working on this project. He is working on Kannada-Marathi negotiations. Maharashtrians are connizers. You love literature, scholarship, and of course, not to forget the great social movement and cooperative movement you have introduced to us. I know about it. And because you are connizers, Bhimsen Joshi from my place came and settled down in Pune, and it's a very interesting story, and that is my love story. Means I love to tell that story. Probably if I write books in future, not research article for CAS, I will be writing on this Kannada-Marathi negotiations. Even if I don't get any promotion for not working on English literature discipline, I don't mind. because I'm already a professor. So, English influence on Kannada literature, and then Kannada Marathi negotiations. Okay? So, one more student is working on literary group, that is Gedayara Gumpu, friends group, and that is inspired by literary activities in Pune and also from Sangli. One of the members of that group, those two principals, R.S. Mugudi, Professor R.S. Mugudi and B.K. Gokab, were friends in the group. You know, it is an interesting story. One of my students is working on this topic. And then, very importantly, this is my favorite topic, Manohara Granthamala, which produced great writers like Girish Karnad. So friends, this is something I wanted to share with you. This is my research profile. This is my obsession. You know, I invite your criticism and your suggestion to my work. I'm here not to download my jnana, but to learn from my interaction with you. But as a teacher, language teacher, I am bothered by one important development in the science and technology. I always believe that for a humanities scholar, for English department and Marathi department, writing is our lab. Writing is our lab. Writing is our lab. Means our research takes place in writing, while writing. Reading and writings are our labs. And this is challenged by artificial intelligence. My research scholars write their proposal. They order it online. Artificial intelligence will produce. That is the challenge we are all facing. We don't know its future. We don't know. It is too early to understand and theorize artificial intelligence and humanities scholarship. One more thing is ChatGPT. You know, I am afraid. I asked Sangara sir, next year also you have to organize one more conference and you have to invite me at least to chair a session, if not for keynote. Because I don't want to miss at any cost poem. But I am afraid if ChatGPT can give the keynote address or chair the session, he will not invite me. So, while going back, I will take Badang and the sweet memories and hospitality you have offered to me. And I am very, very grateful to you all for this patient listening. And I enjoyed. I hope you also enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I request all the dignitaries to take their seats on the dais. Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir, Dr. Shardul Thakur sir, Dr. Langre sir, Professor R.J. Patil sir, Dr. N.S. Gundul sir, all dignitaries, Dr. S.R. Kumar sir, Professor Apte sir. I request all the chief guests to take their seats on the dais. So friends, Kulkarni sir, please take seat. All dignitaries are requested to take their seats. Gundur sir, thank you very much for your thought-provoking and inspiring speech. Sir, I would like to mention that you didn't eat up our minds, but you touched our minds and hearts, sir. So give him a big applause for sir's presentation. Sir, India has a long tradition of poha. Earlier we had Sudama's poha. Today we have Ganesh poha. Names are different, but tradition is same. So thank you very much, sir, for your compliment, and we wish you to write your book and will publish this book in this historical and glorious Willingdon Hall. Thank you very much. Now coming to the presidential address, I request our officiating principal, life member, very active member and our support system, Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir, to deliver his presidential address of this inaugural session.
What Omri sir has said is true in some sense, that I am active member and acting principal. But the presentation or the keynote address by Professor Dr. Kundu make me proactive, and I wish to present some of my observations regarding his presentation. It was really enlightening and motivating kind of presentation. It was not just a PPT oriented presentation, but it was thought-provoking, thought-oriented presentation. Sir, I have observed here the observation approach in your presentation. Sir, very critically point out what do we mean by traits. See, today's conference main topic is traits in English language, literature and research. And sir analyzed very critically and very aptly all these domains. During his analysis, I found traits, we can get meaning of traits as perspectives regarding society, regarding sense and sensibilities of that particular contemporary era. When we say traits, we mean certain style or certain methodology of rendering content. It's all right. Further, language deals with many skills, and sir has pointed out skills that expression is possible through speaking and writing, whereas reception of knowledge, reception of information is possible through listening and reading. Sir has pointed out here at the very ending session of his presentation that speaking and writing, these both are labs, and you really make us to know about language labs and go into that lab and give practice to our students. Further, we discussed about literary domains, such as these are just for the sake or convenience for study purpose of research scholars or professors. So American English, British English, or English writing in Indian literature, or Caribbean or Black English, we can say. Further, sir has pointed out different areas. Sir makes us very thoughtful, beginning with intentions of language learning, intentions of language teaching, and further towards the ideological thinking that could be entitled under the studies of culture, anthropology and criticism. Sir has given many references such as Gayatri Spivak or Foucault or Saussure. Many references we get from his presentation. One of the major things that I found throughout your presentation is dynamics operating in the domain of literature, research and language study. Sir has discussed widely here. Political influences or social scenarios, certain changes day by day or age by age we find, and reflection of all these changes could be found through the literature of that contemporary era. and sir has pointed out this. In the field of linguistics, sir has given many examples. I remind one scholar, that is Max Muller, who has studied Sanskrit over here, who was actually German philosopher and linguist, and he has studied Sanskrit, lived here in India and studied. For our surprise, sir, first Marathi dictionary is also composed by Molesworth and Candy. So these are really noteworthy things that sir has already pointed out here, that there is no such domain between one language to another. There is no need to differentiate from one language to another. Sir has taken a brief review of criticism, research, and also make us to laugh with thought provocation about the study purpose of teaching and students' behavioral patterns, because we all are students first of all, then teachers. So all these things sir has critically discussed here. Sir also compared, I grasp your reference of poha, not just food as food item, but as a metaphor for the study of past trends in literature. Those can be blended with recent trends in literature, language and research. Sir talked here about global scenario and sudden changing. See, recently we can see since 2019 we get first impact, and that was COVID-19 impact. Later total scenario got changed, total paradigm got shifted. So machine learning got highlighting position, prestigious position. Before that it was known for just some selected members or elected members. It was for elite class. But later we have made it common for all, common for everybody. And sir's speaking is truly apt that English couldn't be learned for ChatGPT or machine learning or WhatsApp and Instagrams. There is no need to learn English for all these things. We can even operate these systems through transliteration also, not just a translation, but transliteration also. Sir discussed changing roles of education, teacher and students, all the components, all the units of the process of teaching and learning and research. He emphasized here needs of teaching and study. So, sir, you make us very stimulating throughout your presentation that the aim of teaching should be or must be knowledge use, and not to just get entertainment by reading classics in literature, but knowledge use is very important, and that sir has emphasized over here. One more aspect I found, that is there is abridgment of regional culture and regional knowledge. Nowadays we are on the verge of new educational policy, and as a part, integral part of new educational policy, we must have to implement IKS also, Indian knowledge system. And I think Indian knowledge system is also part of sir's opinion, that is regional learning, regional knowledge, regional ethos. These things should be learned or taught into the classrooms. Nowadays, classroom concept is also totally changed, because we have labs, and as per your thinking, really speaking and listening and all these skills means lab. So laboratory, language has laboratory throughout our skills. Sir has given one very good reference of Watiango abolishing English department, and really I get frightened when I listened to the title of the essay. But later when he give us clarification that this is literary, this is not in a true sense, but this is metaphorical, that it means shifting. Watiango wants here to say us to shift the total paradigm of your department and its functionary towards the innovative kind of functionaries and processes. Sir, I want to add one more thing over here. You have given reference of Deccan Education Society's history writing, and I just want to add here one point. From 1880 to 1935, we have composed the history of our Deccan Education Society. What is further? This is really question before us. We have formed a committee or a group of historians and literary persons, and I am one of the member of that committee. And we are in the mode of gathering all the resources, all the manuscripts, all the documents in order to compose history. And really it is a very challenging task for us to get evidences, to follow historical methods, and after all historical writing is also one of the trends of English literature. And sir has touched this aspect also. Professor Anand Bide is working as a chairman in this committee, and he is now retired, but he is faculty member. He was faculty member of Ferguson College, and he was from electronic department. But till then, he is heading this department or committee. I am very glad to listen very good fluent, and there was a synchronization of sir's speech and our speed of comprehension, and this is really a good kind of matching of wavelength. And I certainly, I promise you, or I assure you that we need much more lectures from you over here. You will accept our invitation further and enlarge our scope of knowledge and comprehension of all these topics. Those are unknown to us also in some sense. Okay, it is my great privilege to thank Gundur sir for his very best speech, presentation. It was really a good kind of model before us how to present. Presentation means not just a reading PPT, but presentation is thought-provoking discussion, critical discussion, analysis with spectators or with students, with listeners, and it was really true in case of you. So I am very thankful on the behalf of my college and all the committee and convener Dr. Sangli sir. I am very glad to have my teacher, my guide, Dr. Langre sir over here, and his eminent presence over here make this hall a great kind of ambience over here, and I am also thankful of him. I am thankful of my senior friend, colleague, Dr. Thakur sir, who is principal at Chintamura Commerce College, for total presence over here, for listening our great thoughts. I am thankful about R.J. Patil sir, Kumar sir and Professor Apte sir for listening or having a participation over here. With this, some few words, I give full stop. No, I will not say full stop, but I will give here comma. And further, my procedure of thinking will continue on the way that you have shown us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kulkarni sir. We were worried that you gave full stop because you have to deliver lectures on another sessions also. So thank you very much for giving comma. Now at the end of this session, I would like to request Dr. Raju Kagne sir to propose vote of thanks of this session. Dr. Kagne sir.
The session is open for discussion. if anybody have any query regarding this, or if anyone want to ask a question to Guntur sir, you may feel free to ask.
Is there anybody who wants to raise question? I think you have, sir, you have made everything so clear that there are no doubts.
Good afternoon to all. It gives me an immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this inaugural session of one-day national conference on trends in English language, literature and research organized by the Department of English, Willingdon College, Sangli. First of all, I want to express my deep sense of gratitude to our keynote speaker, Professor Dr. N.S. Guntur sir, for accepting our invitation and delivering very nice inaugural speech. In his talk, sir has discussed about recent trends in English research. Definitely, the guidance given by sir is fruitful to all of us. Once again, on behalf of Willingdon College, Sangli, I am very much thankful to Professor Dr. Guntur sir. I am very much grateful to today's chief guest, Dr. Vishram Lomte sir, Chairman College Development Committee, for his constant support and encouragement in the organization of such events in the institute. Sir, in his talk, exposed the importance of conferences, usually workshops, seminars, for the development of faculties, research scholars and students. Thank you, Lomte sir. I am very much thankful to Dr. Ravindra Kulkarni sir, Vice Principal, Life Member, Deccan Education Society, and the President of this inaugural session. Sir, in his inaugural presidential speech, emphasizes on the importance of learning, importance of knowledge gain. Thank you, sir. I am also thankful to Professor Dr. Chandrasekhar Lingre sir, Professor Dr. Ananda Kulkarni sir for being over here. I am also grateful to Professor Dr. R.J. Patil sir, Life Member, Deccan Education Society and Chairman Sangli Board, Professor N.K. Apte sir, Life Member, Deccan Education Society. I am very much grateful to Principal of Chintamatra Commerce College, Professor Dr. Shardul Thakur sir, Vice Principal Dr. S.R. Kumbhar sir, Vice Principal Dr. G.D. Sharke sir, for their constant support and greetings. I want to express my sincere thanks to the coordinator of this national conference, Dr. Shashikant Sringari sir, all the participants, all the teaching staff, all the support staff and students who have taken sincere efforts in the organization of such a wonderful event. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Raju Kakane sir. We are going to start our first session immediately. First session. There will be no break. We are going to start our first session immediately. I request Sampada Mirashi to take charge and proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Sir said, we are going to begin the session immediately. I request all the dignitaries This first session will be about trends in English literature. Our today's first speaker, Dr. Ananda Kulkarni sir, is here on the stage. In today's national conference, we commenced the first session to explore trends in English literature. Once again, good afternoon everyone. Deccan Education Society's Willingdon College, Sangli has a rich heritage. The founders embarked on a path that leads to the new awakening and salvation. First of all, I welcome the resource person of this session, the luminary speaker, Dr. Ananda Kulkarni sir. and chairperson of this session, Dr. Langre sir. I also welcome officiating principal, Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir. All the delegates, the research scholars who are present here for this conference for this first session. Our resource person and chairperson are indeed distinguished individuals whose achievements have earned them the respect of many. I request Tasgaonkar Madam to introduce the resource person and chairperson of this session.
Good afternoon. I am Mrs. Vaishali Tasgaonkar, all dignitaries on the dais, all respected teachers from various colleges and students. I actually teach chemistry in this college, and for the past 25 years I've been doing so. But I'm very grateful that you have asked me to introduce today's guest. Actually, like the keynote speaker said, that school teachers play a very important role in inculcating the English knowledge in students, and that is what has happened in my case. When he said that writing, reading is your lab, my lab has, for example, I'll give, when we try detecting a certain element, we use a test which gives us a yellow precipitate. We call it a canary yellow precipitate, and when you look at a yellow colored substance or a flower, I'm sure you think about that how, and then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. It doesn't happen in my case, but like he said that we jump domains, I am jumping the domain and introducing one such great teacher. I think he must have left a great impact on all his students as my teachers did. Today's speaker I'm honored to introduce is Dr. Anand Bhavanidas Kulkarni. He's from Narayangao, Pune. He's the principal and head at the Department of English, Arts, Commerce and Science, Narayangao, Pune. He is a chairman of the Board of Studies in English, Savitribai Phule Pune University at Pune. He has an experience of 27 years of teaching at the UG and PG level. He has delivered over 200 lectures as a resource person. He is a recognized research guide for the Savitribai Phule University in Pune for PhD in English. He has edited 7 books prescribed to UGC courses for the Savitribai Phule Pune University. He has also written 3 books. His specialization is literary theory and modern Western drama. He has completed MRP of UGC on literary theory. He has worked on various academic committees of recruitment, research and syllabus designing. Sir is an honorary member of various boards of studies in English and Maharashtra. I'm sure we are all looking forward to listening to what he has to share. Welcome, sir, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. After listening the introduction, I really feel we are honored to have Dr. Kulkarni sir here. We also have Langre sir from Shivaji University Department of English as the chairperson of this session. We wish to felicitate Kulkarni sir and Langre sir. So I request Dr. Langre sir to felicitate Dr. Anand Kulkarni sir, resource person of the session. Now I request R.A. Kulkarni sir to felicitate Dr. Langre sir, chairperson of the session. Thank you, sir. In the world of professional gatherings and knowledge sharing, conferences are platforms for bringing together erudite thinkers and visionaries. I request Dr. Anand Kulkarni sir to enlighten us on the topic trends in English literature.
Thanks to all of you. I must thank Sangli sir for having thought of inviting me for this kind of gathering. I should also thank the organizers of the conference. And it is good to see that conferences are flourishing after COVID. COVID-19 has sapped our spirit in many ways, and more so when it comes to humanities. In NEP, English has to survive. So these kinds of conferences give the necessary moral boost to all those who are engaged into these kinds of academic businesses. So I'm really very happy to be the part of this conference in the first place. Secondly, I'm happy because I had been to the principal's office of this college. I am here in Sangli for the first time. And thanks Dr. Sangli for having thought of, because visiting Sangli is always a refreshing kind of experience, I suppose. That this college has a history of 104 years, a long, glorious legacy that you have. And I could see some of the luminaries of English being showcased in the office. One of them is, of course, Dr. V.K. Bogag. And I'm so happy to see that so many great people are there. The Department of English has also the glorious history of 104 years. And that is great. English department in India is celebrating 104 years. It's something which is memorable in itself. So thanks for all this. In fact, thanks for thinking of inviting people to interact with each other. What we have forgotten so far is that we have forgotten that we can communicate. That is the issue with us. We have forgotten that we can communicate. And long back, some 50, 60 years, माझा आवाज पोहोचतो तुमच्यापर्यंत सगळ्यांच्या कम्युनिकेशनचा हा एक इश्यू आहे. And by the way, Langre sir, respected chairman of this session, I am very happy that he is chairing the session. One of the scholars, I heard him, I met him for the first time. Scholars of his stature are rare these days. In fact, scholars are rare. And let me tell you, scholar plus teacher are rarer. We have more scholars who can be shown on books and papers, but scholars in classroom performance are rarer. That is one more thing, a matter of concern with all of us. I haven't taken the oath of not speaking in Marathi. I am a man born in Marathi family, Marathi background. I am an ardent lover of Marathi, but I do not hate English. That is it. Let us keep this idea of being the part of a cosmopolitan culture. Should I put it the other way? Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam kind of thing that we are. We have the great legacy of some of the finest composers in the world. Say, for example, it starts with Chakradhar, you come down to Dhaneshwar, to Tukaram, to some of the finest Marathi poets and writers writing in Marathi. Most of the Marathi writers in 20th century who have made their name and turned out to be very prominent writers are probably the professors and teachers of English. And it is no coincidence. Probably because you being exposed to English are exposed to a very broad, wide canvas of world literature. I am doubtful about well, I should start with a concern that I am very happy that the title and the theme of the conference is trains in English literature and English language literature and research. By the way, the theme is not pre-qualified by the word new trains. I am against this word new because there is nothing like new. This binary, what you put it this in Marathi, this Dvait, this duality, this binary between new and old is something which is absolutely fallacious, something which is decidedly irrational. Because some of you must have gone through some of the finest seminal books in English. I do not know how many of you read, but let's read. By the way, because my generation usually doesn't read. And we have to learn English through books. I am not a convent-bred student. You are not. You need not be. What is important is that you have to learn English through books. It is literature, it is through literature that we learn English. I am more concerned with the practical things, less concerned with theory. Because we have been greater theoreticians and lesser practitioners. Well, so let us be practitioners because we have achar more important. Fine. So you shall see if we have this kind of legacy, and in that case it is good that you haven't used the word new because new and old, this kind of binary doesn't work. There is a wonderful book by the title Anxiety of Influence by Harold Bloom. Eliot talked about that. Most of them, and even post-structural theorists, this is not the time that I'll talk about these things. I shall just make passing references to these and you will understand what I am hitting at. The point is that English fine. I want to reach to you. I don't want to make a show of all this. Because we have crossed that age and stage where you have to make a parade of your scholarship. That is enough. What is important is, and this is what Indian culture is all about. Bharatiya Sanskruti means that you reach to the hearts of people. That is it. You enter the hearts of people. That is why you have guru and not a teacher. A teacher is always professional. A guru is always atmic, so close to you, to your heart. He gives you the code of conduct as to how to behave in the society. So this behavioral pattern which is absent these days into the entire pedagogy and educational system needs to be reinstated. And I think literature has to play a vital role in doing that. Fine, so good that you didn't go for this word new, trains. I am doubtful about trains as well, but anyway trains works. One more thing is, there is something like, and this is my concern, my observation also, and I have a straightway objection to that, that there is something that is missing in the title and it is criticism and theory, and I am a student of criticism and theory and this hurts me. Let me put this on record. Indians have been less critical, more enthusiastic. We appreciate each other without knowing the terms of appreciation. So let us stop this. We have a very strong, glorious tradition of Khandan Mandan. We used to have, unfortunately there was something like a dark age. The medieval period was a dark age for us. Even though Bhakti literature flourished through us, but then Bhakti literature was more about the internal, the inner space, it wasn't about the external space. But then our life is like inner and a mix of inner and outer kind of thing. So we have to think of this. Something that is a reasonable thinking is absent in us. Critical thinking is something which is way beyond all these things, probably much ahead of these things. Let us start thinking properly, rationally, and for that you need to have a critical approach in your life. That is important. That seems absent into all this. But anyway, it doesn't mean that that restricts me and my presentation to literature alone. I'll touch upon certain things. That was why I was requesting Honorable Kulkarni sir as to how much time is allotted to me. Because a teacher, if he is asked to speak and speak continuously, speaking continuously is a seamless job. And we shouldn't do that, isn't it? That too in a gathering like this, when we are heading towards lunch, It's always a kind of pressurizing thing for both who is a speaker and a listener. And these days we have not been listeners, we have been articulators. Let us learn to be speakers, and later on, one who can express the things in a sweet, rationally organized and systematic way. One more thing, and that should be a point of note, I think. Let us learn English properly. That is important. You need to have the linguistic skills with you. Unless you are very good at English, it is not at all acceptable. You have to be beautiful in expression. You have to be very choosy, in the choice of your words. That is what is very important. And this should be coupled with your deep knowledge. So we have, as I earlier said, a great tradition of those who are very good speakers and those who are very good students. So knowledge and expression should go together. That is what I think NEP is all about. NEP is about this. We have knowledge, we do not have skill. We have skills and we do not have knowledge. So let us not be parrots, but at the same time let us not be lame speakers. We shouldn't do this. They should go hand in hand. This is what the teachers have to do, of your generation, my generation. Usually, a principal is not supposed to speak, he is supposed to chair, by the way. And I am very happy that I am speaking here and sir is chairing, because principals are supposed to speak at the end and supposed to speak in a very synoptic and short way. प्राचार्यांना बोलायचं नसतं, प्राचार्यांना बोलायचं नाहीये. By the way, anyway, sorry, sir, but the principals are not supposed to speak. I am very happy that those state jackets are not there with me right now. I am a teacher of English, a student of English, and I am very happy that I can interact so freely with you. And this is like a prakat chintan, a loud thinking, which I would like to share with you. Fine. So let us move to with these basic issues that I wanted to share with you. This is a kind of warming up for you to enter into the world which I would like to take to you. I am not sure how far I would be able to take you, because traversing the entire field of literature, English literature, is something which is a very formidable kind of task. It's very difficult traversing this kind of, because you have a very winding kind of trajectory doing this. But we shall try to see how we can understand trains in literature. By the way, trains in English literature. Let me tell you, English literature should be actually literatures in English. These days it should be literatures in English, because literature is not a singular entity, it's a plural composition, it's a plural creation, a plural expression. Again, we have come to the stage in 2024 to a point where there have been serious and grave doubts raised against the creativity of literature, whether literature is creative, imaginative, sublime. Some of you must have gone through the essays by Mr. Langines, where he talks about the sublimity, the Aristotelian way of looking at the things and all those things. So that is what we have to understand. My task of talking about these things is huge. So I will restrict my thinking, my expression with you in a very systematic way, so that will help you and me, because trains in English literature would probably open up a vast ocean for you and me, and there is every chance that we may lose ourselves. Fine. I shall start with Beckett and Brecht. Now something like, I shall take two examples. First of this pair, Beckett and Brecht, and later I shall move on to two other examples, Thomas Pynchon, and we have Ian McEwan. So these two together afterwards. But to begin with, I should say that there is something called modernism. If you think about trains in English literature, you have to ponder for some time on this point of modernism. How far modernism had assured several radical and drastically upsetting kind of views and ideas in literature. In terms of composition. If you think in terms of composition, I suppose this is going to be an important kind of issue for you and me to think over. And you all might be knowing that Malcolm Bradbury wrote a wonderful book by the same title, Modernism, and he, again, modernism in several ways. Modernism was just was not just a part of literature, not limited to literature. It was something which was pervasive, spread into different parts of human expressions and creativities. For example, arts, all kinds of arts, not just literature. If you take literature to be art, a matter of contention, by the way. It's a matter of contention, and you can contest that literature is an art. So do you take literature to be an art or craft? Aristotle believed literature is a craft. Eliot believed literature is an art. Let us make a choice. And choice not easy. Choice is not easy, it is always complicated. By the way, this is how it went on, with modernism ushering itself into the 20th century, beginning of 20th century, and with the publication of the Westland by Eliot, there were several issues thrown and challenged. So that way, Eliot should be considered sufficiently and reasonably well a troubleshooter as far as modern literature is concerned, because Eliot was for the first time. And this was something which is very ironical. Someone who was a Catholic was raising doubts against the traditions of literature. There is something like romanticism that comes between this, that situates between modernism and this tradition period. So romanticism was an attempt to violate the established norms of neoclassicism. Fine, neoclassical ideas were challenged. But then what Eliot was doing was, Eliot was upholding the Catholic views as far as religion was concerned, but was challenging the views in literature, the prevalent views in literature. What Wordsworth was doing was democratizing literature, what Eliot was doing was rationalizing literature. And once you do this, this is going to be very problematic. What will you do when you try to rationalize creativity? That is an issue. So what do you think, what will you do when you start rationalizing creativity? Do you mean to say that a poet is a rational creator? Look at this issue that you have to understand. These are very simple questions, but absolutely mind-boggling. Is a poet a rational creator? For Eliot, yes. For Wordsworth, no. And then you have a huge debate between Wordsworth and Eliot. And Eliot criticized Wordsworth for several reasons. One of the reasons was this, that he was giving more importance to the emotive element of creativity, which he did not accept. So this was the point from where the orientation of the entire European literature was taking place. Eliot was hugely and masterfully responsible for this kind of orientation. Afterwards, he wrote a title, he wrote a very wonderful essay by the title Tradition and Individual Talent. And afterwards, he wrote to criticize the critic. That was a U-turn, that Eliot had taken some 20-25 years afterwards. Eliot started realizing that his ideas were hard and he needed to be very flexible, and that art should not be, if Wordsworth and romantic writers and poets were forcing literature into emotive element of literature, the other way around, Eliot was doing the same thing. He was rationalizing, and that was an extreme way of rationalizing literature. Now, between rationality and romanticity, literature exists. Look at me. It is between rationality and romanticity that literature exists. And it is this situatedness of literature that Beckett and Brecht were trying to explore, the spaces which were untouched and unconsidered. Brecht did it from outer point of view, from the exterior point of view. For example, he challenged the established politics and institutions. On the other hand, Beckett was working over the inner space, the inner landscape of human mind. He was focusing on existence and memory, whereas Brecht on the other side was focusing on institution and politics. And both of them were trying to explore the spaces which were untrodden, unconsidered, unattempted, till the point they had started writing. You know what Beckett did? He reduced the informational scale and index of language to the extent that language stopped being communicative. This is what Beckett did. On one hand, Beckett was experimenting with language. On one hand, Beckett was communicating with how language fails to communicate. On the other hand, we had Brecht, who was experimenting with language as to how language can communicate so effectively and communicate what could not be very easily communicated. Reasons were obviously politics and the institutions at the hands of which the writers had to suffer. Because he was a declared Marxist in every sense of the term, Beckett wasn't. So you have these two representative writers, and I took these two because they represent two very different ideologies which apparently contradict each other, but you shall see that there are some common meeting points between Beckett and Brecht. As I said, Brecht was more concerned with taking audience in the theatre straightway to the realities, whereas Beckett was more interested in taking audience straightway to the deepest recesses of their minds. One was doing outwardly, the other was doing inwardly. So this outward kind of traversing of the trajectory of human mind was something which was very new. Both of them presented Aristotelian ideas about literature. That is very important. Systematic, well-to-do kind of plots were earlier there, characters which could be very easily verified and realized and quickly related. Can you relate with Chloe and Ham in Endgame? Probably cannot. Because they are stupid people speaking nonsense. Life is all about that. Life is a nonsensical journey in search of sense. In search of sense. We are in search of sense. We want to be sensible. Every attempt on our part is to prove ourselves that we are sensible. And the world is intent upon proving to us that we are nonsense. This kind of struggle that you have, which Beckett tries to explore. While Brecht was taking straightway by the horns the existing political institutions and he was challenging them. Brecht was doing the same thing, Beckett was doing the same thing, exploring. One was exploring outwardly, the other inwardly. So literature was falling to its place by the time these writers started writing. We have Augustin Burr, Louis Pirandello, 6 characters in search of language, for example, many of them. Or you have Albert Camus coming out with an equal sense of hopelessness. Each time you read Camus, you should read Schopenhauer. You have these kinds of philosophical lineages. Of course, I will not take you into these kinds of very intricate issues. But any one of you who is interested in knowing why people in 20th century were so much disturbed must read Theodor Adorno. Kindly read Adorno. Adorno is very difficult to understand. But by the way, all great people are very difficult to understand, very easy to see, difficult to understand. This is true with all great people. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is very easy to see. You can have a photograph over here. Do you think it is very easy to follow him? Absolutely difficult. Absolutely difficult. This is because he has been so great that he has done so many miraculous things in our life. So it's true with all artists and writers in their own places. So that is the point that we have to understand. These two writers were trying to give a paradigm shift to the entire literature. Not just because, Beckett wrote poetry, Beckett wrote plays, Beckett wrote novels. Beckett wrote everything. And in spite of all this, Beckett was a reservoir who was always shy of publicity. That is true with another person called Thomas Pynchon. Some of you must have heard his name. He's an American. Pynchon wrote the novels, some of the novels. I am sorry, these novels are not a part of our syllabuses. Should be the part of our syllabuses. Maybe because they are very difficult to read. The Crying of Lot 49 is a novel, a very short novel. Should we call it novel now? I am not sure about it. Anyway, critics have different opinions about that. But he wrote this novel, he wrote several novels. One of the favorite novels is this one. You know what he does is, he raises questions. Should I tell you? Mr. Pynchon is a mathematician of prose. He writes in a very calculated, rationally well thought out way. But at the same time, you shall see that he writes one sentence, say for example, the opening sentence of this novel runs half of the page, and it is very difficult for you to make the sense out of it. But what do you think? Do we really make the sense out of our life? As chaotic, as problematic, as the text is. And the text is the simulacrum of our life. Isn't it? If this is true, you will see that the text doesn't have the links which we can understand, the pastiche and parody which were made to be the important elements of modern postmodernism. Afterwards, you shall see the early seeds of those things in Pynchon's writing. Pynchon did not come to receive his award which was given to him, National Book Award by the American Literary Society. He was so recluse in many sense of the term. What he did was this, that he tried to know what should be the design and program and structure behind this world. Is the world inherently chaotic and confusing? Or is there any system behind it, any design behind it? And if there is any design, what is it? What do you think? Does the revelation come to you and me, the revelation of truth? Through religion, through art, through literature? Are these the ways and modes through which we try to realize and reveal ourselves? Does it ever come to us? If it doesn't, then what is the use of all these institutions? So there is sarcasm, there is irony, there is search for truth. And the lady character, who is the lead character of this novel, is in search of all these things, in search of truth. Do not we think that this is a dystopian kind of novel, of course, in every sense of the term. You call it to be a cyberpunk as well, that we are high-tech, but living a very low life. Technology is high, life is low. Do not you think this is true? There is a huge gap between what we aspire and what we live for. Technologically, we are very advanced people. Humanistically, we are still the people on animalistic level. We have still to grow. That is why Shakespeare is still relevant. You have Iagos and Othellos, and I'm putting them in plurals, We have so many Iagos, we have so many Othellos, we have so many Hamlets. That is it. So one thing that Thomas Pynchon did was, as a matter of trade, we are talking about trade, what he did was, he changed the very structure of a novel, and he did not make it a systematic, linear progression, linearly progressing kind of narrative. What he did was, he made a complete hodgepodge of all this, introduced so many things, and he was such a daring and bracing kind of writer, a brilliant and bracing kind of writer who experimented with language, introduced new words which are very difficult to understand, and made it so difficult that if you read this, The Crime of Lot 49, it's a novel of just 140 pages, and I bet that it will take 6 months for you to understand, to make the sense out of it. So I think it takes roughly 80 years for anyone to understand what life is all about. 6 months is not a big period in that sense of the term, isn't it? You have another person, and just skip through because we do not have time. We are heading towards lunch, as I earlier said, and lunch is more precious than literature in every sense of the term. Fine. Coming back to the point that I was raising, and it was about this issue called another writer whom I have literally adored. You can go on the YouTube, just browse through, and you will find he speaks in a very lucid, sweet English. Usually English speakers, British speakers are very clean, crystal clear. I do not know whether you have gone through two of the best books, two of the best critics, because I happen to be the student of criticism, this is quite obvious. We have one, Mr. Teddy Galton, some of you must have gone through. He writes in a very crystallized prose. Everything is so meticulously worked on that you need not ask a single question as to what this means. Read any French theorist and there are more questions than less answers. You read any French theorist, any French critic, the opposite of that. And between these two, you have someone called Frederick Jansen, who writes in an elegant prose, but an elitist kind of prose, despite being a Marxist. A problem with all ideology. Why Stuart Hall was so much upset with these kinds of ideologies. Anyway, I'm sorry, I sidestepped. But I think this is quite okay, because we are discussing literature. And literature is more about irrelevance and less about relevance. Because literature has to show what is irrelevant in a very relevant manner. Systematically, you have to show to others that communication is impossible, and you have to make this impossibility of communication in a super fine communicative way. That's the only way how you communicate the things. This is about Ian McEwan. McEwan wrote, a British novelist, a Scottish basically. He wrote many other novels, The Atonement, say for example. But the novel that I like most is The Nutshell, which he wrote in 2016. He wrote this novel in 2016. The Nutshell is reimagining Hamlet's plot. And when Mr. McEwan was asked, what prompted you to write this? The answer was, usually McEwan is very reserved kind of person. He doesn't talk about. Any good writer, what do you think, what is the symptom of a very good writer? One who doesn't speak about the origin and inspiration of his writing. That is it. That way I am a student of new criticism in that sense of the term. Some of you must have gone through intentional fallacy. All these are students and teachers of English, hopefully. So that is it. Something like intentional fallacy is there. But then Mr. McEwan came out with the reply that he was discussing, one fine morning he was discussing with his daughter-in-law who was pregnant. And they found that the third person was also present. And the third person was in the womb of his daughter-in-law. And he realized the throb, he felt the throb. And it was there that the idea of writing a novel based on this popped up in his mind. And then he wrote, unborn child listens to the conspiracy between mother and mother's friend. You have Hamlet and Claudius and Gertrude. Fine. This is rewriting, reimagining, re-expressing in a highly different way. And you shall see that once you start reading a very racy, pacey, expressive kind of prose. I am an ardent admirer of Mr. McEwan. What a style. The felicity of expression is something you must read, and you will feel that you are reading English. Absolutely fantastic. Such a beautiful English that he writes. Usually this kind of English is not to be found when you are reading books. Earlier example I gave of Thomas Pynchon. You have to halt and stumble several times before you get to the point. Mr. McEwan takes care of his readers, This is another example coming from a different trade of English literature, that he writes in such a sumptuous English. And it begins with who is the narrator of this novel? The unborn child. Now imagine the unborn child is narrating the story. It is something which is very spectacular and something which is unimaginable, but that is made imaginable through this novel. And what it does is, it brings in the characters which are absent to become very important. The presence of an absent character becomes so prominent that it orients and changes the entire course of the action of the novel. Now this is what it is all about. I think it is high time for me to stop, because it has already struck one. We are past one now. Past one is always a kind of warning to all of us. I must stop with this. I am very happy that I am the part of this kind of conference. I was some way able to interact with you. Mind it well that the concept about literature have radically changed. Literature is no more a creative, imaginative, imaginable kind of activity. It is something which is an exercise that we have to do. Any one of you can be a writer. All of us are co-authors in every decided sense of the term. That is what Barnes and Derrida came out with. So you should see that literature is no more mysterious, no more cryptic, no more secretive, no more a matter of genius. It's a matter of all of us. And the more the voices come up, the more is the victory of literature. I shall end with Mr. Mikhail Bakhtin with the idea of polyphony. Let us be articulative, all of us. Voices should be heard, and finally we should go to the point. I should end on this, that literature is meant for us to become more sympathetic, more empathetic human beings. Literature is a refinement on our part, the raw within us. You know, the way John Milton writes in the beginning of Paradise Lost. Illumine what is dark in me, raise what is low in me. That is what literature should do. I am sure these kinds of ventures, academic ventures, which I earlier said are very rare these days. COVID has literally destroyed us. COVID has stopped us forcefully not to communicate. Another thing which has forbidden us, you know, not that Adam and Eve were forbidden, we are also forbidden. And the forbidding instrument is the electronic gazette called mobile. I am sure there is something like Yar Hridayi, Chaityar Hridayi Ghadale, a kind of samvad. Literature is meant for samvad. So let us become samvadi, meaning harmonious. Samvadi means that. So let us start with samvad about literature, turn to a samvadi, and let us rise to the level of Ata Vishwatmake Devi. Ere Vagayavna Dosha, kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the insightful sharing. Your words have surely reached, entered the heart of all delegates present here. While emphasizing on rational thinking, you have shown a wide view towards trends in English literature. Now I request Dr. Langresca to express his incisive views as the chairperson.
Very good afternoon to all. Professor Kulkarni, the resource person of this session, Principal Kulkarni, students, researchers, my colleagues, Professor Trupti Karekatti, Professor Gundur. I will not stand much between the lunch and my small summing up. In fact, we have seen that how good deliberations can enlighten us, not just enlighten us, but provoke us to think rationally. As Professor Kulkarni was talking about, we have many scholars, but how far we deem fit for that? Really, I mean, the kind of, in his deliberations, he talked about writers, thinkers, ideologists, and I found many takeaways from his talk, but I will not be able to touch all, but I just would like to add something to it. We know that we have been doing research relentlessly in language or in culture or in literature, but as Gundur sir has pointed out in the morning, that really we must think that what we are going to add to this domain of humanities. So we must think of it. And a while ago, Kulkarni sir was also talking about that we must enrich the domains. No doubt that we are learning English in non-native context, but we found that many great scholars, Oriental or Indians or Asiatic scholars, they have contributed immensely to the domain of literature. I was working on Tagore for some paper, and I came across a very different reference which I never heard. And it was about, that the aftermath of Second World War was the publication of The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. And Eliot ends his poem wasteland with Om Shanti Shanti. He talks about, many Indian scriptures and all that. But I read in one of the references that this Eliot's ending of wasteland with Om Shanti Shanti was nothing but his listening to Tagore's talk in Harvard University. Tagore was, after the war-torn societies, Tagore thought that he should visit Europe and America and pacify the victims. And Tagore once delivered his talk at Harvard University on Indian Upanishads and the whole tradition. And Eliot was the part of the participation. And when he heard Tagore's talk, he was on the verge of summing up of his wasteland. And then when Tagore came back to Kolkata, one of his friends wrote him a letter and said, Mr. Tagore, you will be surprised to know that Eliot was talking about your talk and he is going to put an end to his wasteland with the words from Upanishads and the scriptures. Because India has given gift of non-violence, India's gift to, enlightenment and spiritual worth is amazing, unprecedented. And here I found that yes, how an Indian scholar can be a source of amelioration and inspiration for a trendsetter of modern poetry like T.S. Eliot. So it means that it shows that we have also contributed to the modern poetry, because T.S. Eliot's wasteland is supposed to be the trendsetter of modern poetry. So I want to just state here the fact that we are also doing in our own way. But as Gundur has rightly pointed out in the morning, so we have to think literature as literary discipline rather more than utilitarian value. No doubt that I was teaching, I'm teaching now, Foucault and Derrida. In fact, I'm not a scholar in critical theories, but when I found that why these critics consider writers as transcendental signified, standing outside the text and outpour the meaning. And Roland Barthes was the first critic who, in his work, path-breaking work, Death of the Author, he talked about that author is not necessary. But that is not the literal meaning I found. That because when Roland Barthes wrote this essay, it was, I think, Raymond, what is his name? Picard. Raymond Picard, who was part of the writers' movement in France. He raised the eyebrow. He called the whole business of post-structuralism as something absurd. And we find what happened after that. It was Michel Foucault, and it was in fact Derrida also. They started talking about that how these movements are important because these are all French eclectic movements which were giving some new meaning to the meaning-making process. And they proved that in the meaning-making process, authors, in fact, why they should be kept on the peripheries is that, unfortunately, authors are creating some kind of mismatch and what they call transgression. So authors, when they take part in the meaning-making process, they become more individuals than subjects. And Roland Barthes has rightly pointed out that author is dead means author as subject is dead, but the whole enterprise is taken by the intellectuals who are well versed in, they were basically linguists, I think. But still, they are well versed in reading cultures and literatures, because we know the whole tradition, the range of the writers and critics, they were well versed in reading. So it means that reading conscientiously is very important, and that is what we have been talking since morning. That how we read, that matters a lot. And I think there are trends coming. In fact, the presidential theme, new trends, trends. Good that it is not new trend, you have rightly pointed out. But these trends keep on changing because in humanities we find things are not static. So always we have new domains coming up, always we have challenges put forth by writers, new writers are coming up, and we find that this will continue, this will go on augmenting the very domain of humanities and literary studies. So what I feel in this regard is that we must rather redefine our readership, because we find that we blame our students that they don't read original text, they depend on bazaar notes and all that. And this is okay, this is also the truth. But I think our role is to not just enlighten them, but at least to help them in redefining their readership. And asking them to read the text in between the lines would be more important thing. This is what I feel. And that is very missing, as Sir has rightly pointed out about American author, who is not from this domain, but who became a very important figure, and whose readings are challenging, whose novels are challenging. It means that knowledge can be produced by any person of any domain. But only thing is that what is important is conscientious thinking. This is what I feel, and redefining our roles. And therefore, on the note that we need to redefine our roles as a teacher of language and teacher of literature, and again cultural studies is coming up. You know that nowadays in Europe and America, I found also, I noticed that most of the literature studies departments have become cultural studies departments, cinema studies and many more. And even I found that in language, in the domain of language, many more things are changing. And I think they are not posing anything, but they are rather opening new avenues for research and studies. And thanks to this, the things which are going very relentlessly. So with this, I conclude my summing up. And once again, I extend my thanks, I acknowledge sincere thanks for the organizers for inviting me here and allowing me to chair the session of such a good deliberation. You listen to an erudite scholar, and I hope that there will be more takeaways from his deliberations. With this, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the profound words, highlighting reading between the lines, reading critically, and stressing on redefining roles as a teacher. It is said that gratitude is the best attitude. Expressing the feelings of gratitude gives satisfaction, brings peace for the day, and creates a vision for tomorrow. I request Chaitanya Kulkarni sir to propose a vote of thanks for this session.
Well, Dr. Anand Kulkarni sir talked about our glorious tradition and critical thinking and expressed hope to restore this trend. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tunes without words, sir, and never stops at all. So let us hope and start making literature rational and sympathetic, as we say. I also won't stand between you and the lunch and quickly proceed. I have the honor to propose the vote of thanks for this first session. We are privileged to have a dynamic personality in English literature, teaching fraternity, Dr. Anand Kulkarni sir. We are really thankful for his valuable inputs during the session. I extend my gratitude to Dr. Langde sir for his gracious presence. We are thankful to Dr. Gundur sir. He was a keynote addresser in the first session. Dr. Karakatti ma'am, Dr. Thakur sir for their presence over here. I would like to thank Dr. R.A. Kulkarni sir and convener of this conference, Dr. Shingare sir, for making or availing this opportunity to listen to these great personalities in this conference. I thank all the participants who are participating. I also thank Sukte sir for his presence over here. And I thank all the participants who are present, who are participating online and offline in this conference. We are pleased to have a very enthusiastic anchors, Tombre sir and Sampada madam. Thank you all, and we will proceed with your permission for lunch. Enjoy your lunch. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. As sir has said, now it's lunch time. I request you to proceed towards Gymkhana Hall for the lunch. We will come back here at 2 o'clock for the second session by Dr. Trupti Karikatti madam. The session will begin on time.
Food arrangement has been made in Gymkhana Hall, back of this Willingdon Hall. We will come here at sharp 2 o'clock so that we can proceed.